Yo, what up, ladies and gentlemen? This is your boy Crispy Daniels back at it again. Welcome to another episode of not Show and Talk, of not World Rule Talk, but we're going to be jumping into season 3 of Missing the 90s. And this is the first episode. We're going to be talking about Mortal Kombat, but not, the arcade version, not the Genesis version. We're going to be discussing the Super Nintendo version. So, this game came out on Mortal Monday, which was September 13th, 1993. It came out on the SNES, the Genesis, the Game Boy, and Game Gear. Now, I never played the Game Gear version of this game, but I have played the other three. So, the thing I like about this game, the Super Nintendo version, this was one of those games that I actually grew up with. I played the SNES version before I played the Genesis version. However, I grew up with this guy named CJ. I was kind of envious of him because he had the Genesis version. And the Genesis version, which I will admit, as far as the controls and the blood and all that, the fatalities, those were the only things that topped the Super Nintendo version. Now, the SNES version, it had the graphics, it had the sound effects, you know what I'm saying? It had all of that. You know what I'm saying? Now, another thing that the Genesis was superior in that I forgot to mention was the music. But for some reason, I prefer the Super Nintendo game. You know what I'm saying? The controls are a little delayed, but it's all good. You know what I'm saying? Me and my brothers, we used to have fun times with this game. You know what I'm saying? For what it was. Just knocking the sweat out of each other. You know what I mean? But I'm going to say this right here, right? If you agree with me, comment I agree. If you think that Goro was a joke in the Super Nintendo game versus the arcade, because I have a one-up arcade machine of Mortal Kombat 2, but it's got MK1, 2, and Ultimate 3 on it. Goro was no joke in that version. It took me at least 10 tries to beat him. First time I beat the game with Kano, second time it was with Scorpion. But as far as the Super Nintendo version go, I could beat that game any day of the week. You know what I mean? The game is pretty easy. Now, a fun fact about this game that I'm sure some of you may know, originally Jax was supposed to be in this game, but his name wasn't Jax, it was Striker. So instead of placing him in a roster, they decided they needed a female character. So they put Sonya in there instead. You know what I'm saying? Now, Sonya and Kano were the two least characters that I used. The character that I used the most, who I always started off with, was Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero was my character. Like, for some reason, I would play with these characters in order. First, it was Sub-Zero, then it was Liu Kang, then Scorpion, then Raiden, then Johnny Cage. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, for what this game was, if you grew up with the Super Nintendo, like let's say when this game came out back in the day, and you picked up the Super Nintendo version and never played the Genesis version at all. Like you might have seen ads on TV for all three versions, but let's say you never played the Genesis version. You never played it. You only played the SNES version. Are you going to feel the same way about the SNES version? You know what I'm saying? Or since this was like the only version you played other than, you know, well, the arcade version, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Are you going to have many bad things to say about it? You know what I mean? Because, there was one way that you can get blood in the game, but it's still sweat. You know what I'm saying? And that was with the game Genie. You know what I mean? It's instead of, uppercutting them and the sweat coming out, it's still sweat, but it's like red sweat. You know what I mean? So, that's your little blood right there. They did have another version of this game. It's a lost version of Mortal Kombat 1, which was supposed to be a bloody version, but I don't know. I don't know too much about that one. I have to go back and research that, but yeah. like I said, for what this game was, I really appreciated it at the time. But now that I have the arcade machine, I'll probably never play the SNES version again. You know what I mean? I hate to say that, but it's been on my shelf for a while, just sitting there. But I mean, that's it. You know what I'm saying? Those are my thoughts on MK1 for the Super Nintendo. If you haven't played it, or for some reason, if you haven't played it, pick it up, give it a shot. You know what I'm saying? You might have fun with it for what it is, especially if the SNES is the only console you own. But thank you for listening. And if you're watching this on YouTube, give me a like, comment, and subscribe, and I would greatly appreciate it. And you guys take care and have a nice day. All right? Peace.
The feeling is mutual. Come in, take a seat, share your thoughts with each, and preach it when you speak, so we can share kinetic energy throughout the brainwave. Keep us balanced out and all on the same thing.